What a joy and privilege it is to be worshiping with you already this morning. I bring you greetings in the name of Christ, the Spirit of God present with us, and also from your sister congregation, First Mennonite Church of San Francisco. When Melly asked if I would speak at her ordination service, she said that it would be happening within the context of a normal Sunday morning service here at Willow Avenue Mennonite Church. Well, having visited, worshiped, and led a wedding here in the past, having toured and learned of the architectural master design of this ark of worship, and spiritually feasted on the art's installations throughout. In fact, while I was preparing for this sermon, Janice Lepke's painting in the office kept coming to me, and I don't know if the theme is Pentecost or not, but I'll sure apply it to Pentecost. Having known a goodly number of you for a goodly number of years, having observed and marveled at the avant-garde spiritual and pastoral leadership serving Willow Avenue now and over the years, one thing I know, that a normal Sunday morning service, if anything at all, would not be normal in the normal sense of the word used in most other Sunday services, in most any other congregation, especially on Pentecost Sunday, and especially when ordaining Melly Howard to Christian ministry. By itself, the Pentecost story, as read to us in the lectionary text in Acts 2, also is not normal, even a bit bizarre. However, because we have heard it so often and celebrated annually, it may seem almost normal to our listening ears. Indeed, Luke, the author of the text, being the good historian and Bible reader that he was, tries to normalize this bizarre experience just a tiny bit by mapping it onto repeated Older Testament themes and images. Those present hearing and seeing this, who are part of the Jewish faith from all over the world, they probably and most likely were familiar with biblical images of mighty windstorms, brilliant fires that don't consume their objects, and other signs and wonders that would often accompany the presence of God in moments of profound revelation in the biblical vernacular. They were familiar with such biblical images and signs and wonders that would usher in the beginnings of whole new worlds. There was the hovering spiritual wind in creation, the burning bush and the revelation of God's name to Moses, the pillar of fire leading the Hebrew children in the wilderness, the smoky mist and thunder on Mount Sinai at the giving of the Ten Commandments. All these various phenomena were mapped onto Luke's account here on this Feast of Pentecost. I could have chosen a host of different images for our focus today. The miracle of speech, the miracle of hearing, the reversal of the Tower of Babel story, the many places from which these people came from all over the Levant, the cross-cultural experience of the day. This was diversity, equity, and inclusion on steroids. Or I could focus on a whole discourse on the theology of the Pentecostal experience itself. That said, I instead would like to draw our attention to a select group of people within the whole Pentecost gathering who symbolize just how revolutionary, how world-changing this story was in its time and in times before, as prophesied in Scripture, namely the women in the crowd. In the first chapter of Acts, we read in verse 14 already that Luke mentions that certain women had gathered with the apostles. We assume inferred here is the mother of Jesus and a few others by inference, anticipating some great sign from God to be manifest in their presence. Here in chapter 2, Luke records the sermon of Peter, trying to explain what is happening to folks who could only imagine a group of inebriated partygoers at 9 a.m. in the morning. In his sermon, Peter assures the onlookers that these folks are not drunk. He chooses as his lectionary text the apocalyptic scenario from the book of the prophet Joel, who specifically mentions God's Spirit being poured out upon all people, men and women, sons and daughters. Hence, the title of my comments this morning are Daughters of Pentecost, Embers in the Smoky Mist. To be honest, historically, commentators were more likely to focus on the ethnic complexion, the differing language groups, the miraculous fiery and windy phenomena, the crowd size, the conversion rate, while mentioning the gender makeup mostly in passing, if at all. To set the context a bit more and to unpack what I'm calling Daughters of Pentecost, Embers in the Smoky Mist, we must first appreciate the dystopian, apocalyptic vision of Peter's chosen sermon text from the book of Joel and the slight but all-important misquotation of Joel by Peter in his sermon to the crowd at Pentecost. Here again is what Joel writes. In the last days, God declares, I will show portents in heavens and above, and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and smoky mist. The sun shall be turned black, the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord. To borrow a phrase from one of her regular columns in Anabaptist World magazine, Melly describes another similar biblical dystopian end-of-the-world scenario in Revelation 21 when she writes, quote, in the span of this one verse, in our text is 2 verses, in the span of these 2 verses, she writes, we read of, quote, total ecological and cosmic destruction. Well said, Melly. In this passage of Joel, quoted here by Peter, an old biblical pattern of apocalyptic, ecological, and cosmic extinction is described. Originally, as we saw in the book of Joel, Joel calls his vision of the end as that great and terrible day of the Lord. In fact, Joel, if you read the book, is full of such hellish, dreadful imaginings in his short 2-chapter book. However, and here's a big however, into the middle of this mess, Joel offers a rare but expansive opening for women to rise to at least the level of co-equals with men in God's kingdom or God's economy. Into this nightmare, Joel says that God will pour out God's Spirit on all people, specifically adding women and daughters into the mix. Could it be that, like so many other examples in the most of the patriarchal world of the Bible and history, that when the world comes to a place of existential crisis, it opens itself to otherwise inconceivable possibilities for getting out of the mess? A study published in Harvard's Business Review with a bunch of college students found that when a man-led company does well and the male boss retires, 60% of college students choose to identify a man as his replacement. If the man-led company is said to be in crisis, leading to the CEO's untimely departure, the same students in the same survey choose a woman as the better replacement. Dr. Anna Benninger, Senior Director of Research and Corporate Engagement Partner at Catalyst, a nonprofit firm promoting women in business, notes that when an organization is in crisis, women are then, finally, looked at as leaders who may possibly be better to take care of the problem. In her words, quote, "Women are effectively handed the mess to clean up." Go figure. Maybe God and/or Joel feels a bit the same way. The comedian, Bridget Christie, claims that if women were in charge, quote, "I doubt that 8 men who currently have the same wealth as the poorest 50% of the world's population would be in charge of things." 8, she exclaims. "I've had more people on my trampoline at once." She concludes, when a group of men whose combined wealth equals that of 3.6 billion people can comfortably frolic together on my trampoline, it's time for leadership change. And not to be bested in outrage, Sophie Hagen, another feminist comedian, piles on. First of all, she says, quote, "If women would be in charge, there would be free tampons, legal birth control everywhere, and actual jail sentences given to 100% of rapists instead of 5% that we see today. And hopefully," she smirks, "with the right-headed B person," you can fill in the blank, "in charge, there would be some kind of limit to how much a man was allowed to interrupt and mansplain everything as well." And when I read that, I was scared to death to come preach this sermon today. I go, oh my God, what am I thinking? What was Melly thinking? She goes on and says, "I imagine we would call it the law of shh. If a woman says shh to a man, he is bound then by law to go home and sit down and shut up. Soon there would be no sexual assault, no catcalling, no mansplaining, and no hashtag not tall men. We would, of course, have a list of dudes who are all right." Whew, I was relieved a little bit about that till she starts naming who they are, who would get to suggest laws every once in a while. And then she names Justin Trudeau, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Sadiq Khan, Channing Tatum, and concludes the but here, the big but is they'd have to work topless. It's the law. Now, if you want, I beg you to go online. I wish I could play it for you this morning, and listen to the great funky song by Keb Mo. Keb Mo is this funky musician that sings this wonderful song, and it goes something like this. And the lyrics are to die for. So, and the funk in it. You gotta do it. Way back when, in the beginning of time, when man said, "The world is mine," and here we are standing on the brink of another disaster. Enough is enough is enough is enough. I know the answer to this disaster. Put a woman in charge, put a woman in charge, put the women in charge. And the rest goes on from there. And by the end of that song, if you aren't dancing and whooping and hollering, well, you're Mennonite. It took some 300 years after Joel first said that in the last days, God's Spirit would be poured out on women and their daughters, that Pentecost would make that vision come true. And what's more, far from such a day being the result of Joel's dystopian vision of portents of blood, fire, and smoky mist, of total eclipse and a blood-red moon, pretending the great and terrible day of the Lord, as Joel says, Luke, quoting Peter, misquoting Joel, says that what is happening on this Pentecost day is a sign of a flipped script to such dystopian extinction. Peter says, instead of the Spirit being poured out on women and their daughters as a sign of the great and terrible day of the Lord, it is the sign of the coming of the Lord's great and glorious day. By the way, there's another little piece here. If you'll recall in the reading, when Joel says that even when the Spirit is poured out on all flesh, in that particular context, at the end of Joel's statement, it says, for the people of God, meaning the Jewish people of the time. In this text, the text says the Spirit will be poured out and salvation will come to all people who call on the name of the Lord, not just a particular kind of people. So Pentecost is a day that opens up the possibility of everyone who calls on the name of the Lord to being saved, not from fear, but from a glorious, miraculous, unprecedented, spiritual, revolutionary revival in which women and daughters of Pentecost would rise up out of Joel's dystopian reality, out of the smoky mist, like spirit-filled phoenixes, phoenixi, or whatever they are, rise up and usher in the Lord's great and glorious day. Joel's old dystopian black hole world, like all such worlds in science fiction and apocalyptic tales, provides the appropriate breakdown of old patterns, old ways of doing things, old norms, old orthodoxies, and old ortho practices, and becomes the very means and backdrop for the good news that women will prophesy. The old has passed away, a new portal of possibility is opened. A sign of that Spirit has already been ready, always been ready, whenever we are to be poured out on all of us, women as the first fruits poured out on all flesh, that the whole world might be saved. Let's face it, Octavia Butler, the great African-American science fiction writer, a prophet before her time, boy was she a prophet before her time, down to the very moment we're currently living in. And Margaret Atwood's protagonist, Offred of A Handmaid's Tale, and Susan Collins, Katniss Everdeen's hero of the Hunger Games series, to say nothing of Princess Leia. All of these are mapped upon our literary world to help us appreciate their biblical four sisters scattered betwixt and between apocalyptic times. And lest we forget, there's 137 named women in the Bible. Of course, that's out of 1,700 men who are named. And to say nothing about all those women who were unnamed. There's Eve and Lilith, Sarah, Hagar, the daughters of Zelophehad. Go look up the daughters of Zelophehad to see the economic revolution they did in inheritance laws. And Shiphrah and Puah, Rahab and Deborah and Yael and Ruth and Naomi and Tamar and Hannah. I'm not going to name all 37, but hey, I'll list a few here. The businesswomen, the unnamed businesswomen, woman of valor in Proverbs 31. Sophia, who danced with the Lord prior to creation. Esther, the foremothers of the restorative justice and peace among the women of Tekoa, the unnamed women. Mary, the mother of Jesus, the first to literally carry the gospel in her womb, without whom Jesus, the Savior of the world, would have been another stillborn messianic ideal. Mary Magdalene and the women at the empty tomb, the first evangelist entrusted to carry the message to the risen Lord, which Melly has written about. Oh, and then there's Joan of Arc and the Anabaptist women, a woman like Anakin Jans in Martyr's Mirror, who gave her life for what she believed in. Dorothy Day, Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, and ... you, Melly, and you, Audrey. And you, Jerry, wherever you are, Jerry. And all of you other women who have been ordained. If you're out there, raise your hand so we can appreciate how you stand in that list. You are in a line of women As the hymn in the Mennonite song book, Voices Together, proclaims, there's a line of women extending back to Eve, whose role in shaping history God only could conceive. Sing a song of Sarah and of Anna. Sing a song of Martha. Sing of all the Marys who heeded God's requests and now at heaven's banquet are Jesus's fondest guests. Melly, I would be remiss, though tempted as I am, to full stop the sermon here. With you and your ordination in the vanguard and the high point of this line of historic spirit-filled women. The forerunners and the backfillers, the named and the unnamed women, saving the creation and all humankind and animal kind from an apocalyptic dystopian future. Here's where your calling was truly manifest to me. Time and time again over the course of my many interactions with you as mentor and guide through this process leading to your ordination today, you repeatedly said to me and reminded me in different ways that you didn't want this to be all about you, especially this occasion, or your calling simply to be all about you. You insisted that this Kairos moment in time, this Pentecost Sunday, be about all of us. All of us. All of us. That the Pentecost story is ultimately about God pouring God's love in spirit upon all of us. And I would just say, OMG. So that, why? So that as Joel, then Luke, quoting Peter, misquoting Joel, that all of us, every one of us who call upon the name of the Lord might be saved. Amen.